Hi, welcome. My name is Dr. Dharm Sidhu. I'm a naturopathic doctor in BC, Canada, and
I'm Adrienne Wood. I'm Dr. Adrienne Wood. I'm a naturopathic doctor in Nova Scotia, Canada.
literally coast to coast here. Uh, and we both have been investigating the role of emotions and health, clinical practice and personally as well. And one of the emotion that's been the toughest for me has been anger. And there's so many different kinds of anger. And the angers that I like and the angers that I don't like. So you had mentioned a couple of days ago that you've been investigating anger as well. And so let's talk about what you've learned about anger so far. What have you observed?
The biggest thing about anger for me is that it feels like a major clue uh, for me when it's like a big red flashing to look at in myself.
Right.
That's the major thing that I've learned about anger is.
So what do you do with it? Because there, from what I'm learning from our experience, there's so many different types indicating different parts of what I'm working through, or maybe I'm overcomplicating it. Uh, where do you go with that when you go, oh, I'm angry, this is a clue? Where do you go with that?
Yeah, I don't really um, go into that much detail. Maybe the same, like I don't really subdivide it into different types of anger. Like I just use it as a doorway to essentially alert myself that there's something inside of me, like there's some sort of expectation that I have on
Right.
somebody or
Right.
something or some scenario or some kind of demand that I have, something that I
Yes.
want to be happening uh, that's not happening as I think it should be. Uh, and that's my problem, not anybody else's problem. And so it just helps alert me to essentially an unloving demand or expectation that I have inside of myself that is creating turmoil, not just for me, but likely other people.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to go find what that demand and expectation is and where is it stemming from. And
Yeah.
I've learned for myself that it's usually directly covering over a fear that I have, which in that fear is usually at its basic uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like at the core, that fear is a fear of feeling something else, a fear
Yeah.
of feeling a pain or some sort of painful emotion from my past. I
Okay.
don't want to feel.
Now, so this right here, um, if I'm experiencing anger, then this is my problem, not other people. Right there, you can feel the planet turning on the axis, going, wait a minute, because that's not how we experience it in our general life.
No.
There are people who feel justified in their anger, use anger. I mean, anger can be a clue that there's something that doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
Especially say if you're a child and the experience of anger is like there's some kind of a treatment that isn't right. But even then, under that is an expectation that we have to heal. And then there are other people so I judge anger, and I don't want to be like the angry people in my childhood who use anger to control people. So I'm not going to be like that. So I numbed it. I even completely created the Zen spiritual facade that I have no anger. Or if there's an anger, I'm just going to talk it down and going, just meditate it away or positive thinking it away. So I even shut it down. And then I started having health problems from suppressing anger.
Mhm.
So what can you say more about that? Like you must see patients like that also.
Yeah, I see anger as a major contributor to health issues.
Yeah.
And I guess, and I will just go back to what you said a couple minutes ago about different types of anger. I guess for me, there are two different types of anger. childhood anger feels very different than adult
That
anger.
is true. That's true.
So when I'm talking about the anger processes that I go through and that I help other people go through, it's our adult anger.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that's a very different, I mean, they're not completely on different planets, but
Yeah.
but childhood anger is definitely a little bit different, and
Different
there's more
experience.
nuance to that.
Right.
So I'm talking about anger as that we have as adults.
And that to if we could get excited. So basically the idea when you say this is a clue in me, if we could get excited that it's nice to know, it's good to know clues, it's good to know what expectation I'm having and I'm causing pain to others, then I could be more willing to embrace my anger instead of
Yeah.
denying that it exists. Um, and the judgment, the blame, the shame, the fear, we even have fear about experiencing anger,
Mhm.
acknowledging that is there. And then to get to the level of saying anger is a clue, not an excuse to now go demand something from people. How do we get people there?
I, for me, it was learning how damaging anger
Ah,
really is.
yeah,
Uh, I lived in my anger for a long time, and it wasn't like explosive,
yeah,
no ragey anger. Nobody probably would have around me would have recognized that, but I started to recognize in myself that I was like frustrated a lot of the time, or
yeah.
annoyed at a lot of the time, or irritated a lot of the time, and
Or
uh,
impatient.
impatient, or or just a little disgruntled, or
Yeah,
there's so many um, aspects of anger, and even though mine felt relatively mild, I started to realize how often I was feeling those things, and
right.
how damaging that is to my own body to be holding on and living in that kind of anger, because it does do damage to our own body. But
Mhm.
then I started to realize the impacts of onto other people, and how that feels or must have felt for other people to be just even around it. Maybe I wasn't angry at them, but if I was complaining or wanting to vent about something, or, you know, whatever, complain about politics or something, like I now see, now that I've worked through some of that or started to recognize some of it in myself, when I'm around somebody who is living in their anger and
Right.
complaining, venting, wanting to talk about the turmoil of the world all the time and blame it on somebody, blame it on this person, blaming on that person. It's really unpleasant to be around.
Yeah, yeah,
And so for me, recognizing how unpleasant that was
yeah.
in myself and for others made me motivated to want to change that.
Okay, okay. And so what I'm learning, because I've been suppressing and numbing anger, is that I do have to acknowledge the anger and then own it. Instead of projecting it, I gotta own it, which has
Yeah.
a different feel. It took me a long time to go, what's the difference between projection? What is projection? What does it even mean that I'm projecting emotion? What is that even?
Well, and that's funny that you bring that up, because just recently something kind of clicked for me about like, yeah, what is the difference? Like,
Yes,
this, most people might not even be familiar with the term
no,
projection. I
I
wasn't.
wasn't.
Um, but I learned about it in a different way of when we project it could be any emotion, it could be fear or it could be anger. When we're not owning our own emotions, we're externalizing them, and we're blaming somebody else or
Right,
something else
right.
for how I feel.
That's
So if
true.
you walk in
Okay.
the room and don't say hello to me, and I say, "Oh, that Dharm is so rude, and
Yeah,
she made me feel so unseen and
yeah.
so unheard," that's me projecting my anger, because I'm
Beautiful
blaming you
example.
now for
Yeah,
a feeling that I have. And
yeah,
versus when I own that in myself, if you don't say hi to me, then I say, okay, well that hurts, and I feel kind of mad that she didn't say hi to me, but that my pain is my problem. And I
Yes.
need to look at that for myself.
So now what I'm beginning to do gently is I now will go into, because I would berate myself for like, oh, there you go again, you're projecting anger, here's another addiction, or you gotta, blah, 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 blah. No, it doesn't solve it. I just started to get more and more tense because on one hand, I'm inviting the anger, on the other hand, I'm still trying to be mad about it. So now I'm trying to get to a place of saying, if I were to hug the anger, just gently hug the anger and say, talk to me, what's in here? Then the anger will move internally and say, how come I didn't even matter enough to be acknowledged? Oh, that's what, so now the anger is being owned. I still feel angry, but it's actually more uncomfortable because now I feel it more in my body and it's more uncomfortable, there's more pain. But in it, if I can be gentle, then I can hear, how come I don't matter? My demand is I should matter. Okay, I know how to work with the demands. So then something starts to settle. And if I'm lucky, I start to tap into the fear and I start to shake, which is like, oh, there it is. Wow, that only took a minute. I'm already in the fear of it's really scary that I don't matter. And by this point, like you said earlier, the fear, I'm already in a childhood memory. Now, it's taken me 10 years to be able to drop into things that quickly, um, because we can be blocked to anger, we can be blocked to fear. If you don't want the fear, we're going to go back into projected anger. You have like you see it happening in yourself, like this is biological. Like I just saw an anger, I just saw a fear, but I'm gonna go right back and go blame somebody again. I can
Yeah.
see it happening, and it's like, okay, that's how that works. Yeah,
Yeah, and I find for myself, like you said, like not being hard on ourselves or judgmental or critical of ourselves in that place, like, oh, there you go again.
yeah,
But for me, I kind of say, like, there you go again. You're doing it again. Like,
yeah,
so
yeah,
still calling myself on
yes,
it,
yes,
but like hopefully with a gentler
yeah,
approach. Like,
yeah,
you're doing it again. You're doing it
yeah,
again. You're doing it again. Like, aren't you
yes,
tired of doing it again? You
yes.
know,
See, okay,
and
there it is. You,
so it's finding that line between not judging ourselves and being hard on ourselves, but still owning it and
oh,
acknowledging it
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
not letting it slip away.
Yeah. But by the time you're seeing the damage anger is doing to others, there's a strong desire inside of like, this has got to stop. But
Hmm.
again, we're finding our own language into those places.
Yeah.
How to be with our little ones in these places. What's the language that works is, I guess, part of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Figuring out how to go about that. Okay, we're going to stop here, and I have some ideas on what to go into the next part of this conversation with. So thank you for listening.